This is a Two Front podcast.
You got a crooked smile, well that don't bother me much. You double overworking, double time, you double tough. I'll just shine it up until the sun hit like a glare. I gotta dare, get the fuck up out the chair.
Happy Dentist Gang, meet Dr. Jennifer Haddad, a USC-trained cosmetic dentist who's got a gorgeous practice in Beverly Hills with her business partner, Victor. She's a fierce advocate for women supporting women in dentistry, and we really connected over the idea that women supporting each other in this industry is exactly what we need. She almost left dentistry after having her first child, and after working hard towards having both, she found a great balance between being a mom and practicing. She now has 2 beautiful children, and she's more efficient than ever. She's even started lecturing after a lifelong dream. Dr. Jennifer Haddad, welcome to The Happy Dentist.
Thank you guys for having me. I have been looking forward to this, so this is going to be a good one. Here we go.
I'm super excited. Kyle, you obviously know Dr. Haddad, Jennifer best. Why don't you give a quick intro?
Yeah, I mean, we've known each other for a long time now. I mean, how many years were you under me?
So I graduated in 2013.
Okay, so you're 3 years under me. Yeah,
Mhm.
so yeah, when I was a senior, then you were, yeah, freshman or something like that. Yeah, so I mean, we've known each other now for like 15 or more years and
It's
have
crazy.
been close in the biomimetic space. You know, we have the same mentor, Dr. Pascal Magnier. We practice in the same building. So, you know, the LA biomimetic community is very small. So we also used to live in the same city at one point.
Okay, so I was just going to say, I think I'm following your footsteps secretly, not intentionally doing it, but somehow I'm following you. But the funniest thing is that I'll never forget Kyle in dental school. We were at a mobile clinic and he taught me my first extraction, and that was so special to me. I'll never forget that. I know. I
Aw.
felt so good. I was like, "Oh my god, I extracted my first tooth," and he was telling me exactly what to do. I know it's a
Oh, that's fun.
nerdy story, but that was a very special moment for me. And lo and behold, like he said, somehow I am now in his building, doing biomimetic dentistry. At one point, we're like, "Hey, we live in the same city." I'm gonna follow you to OC as well.
Yeah,
So
eventually
just
you
get
gotta
ready.
come down to OC.
Give me a couple years.
Pretty soon you won't
Give
be
me,
practicing.
yeah.
You're
That's
on
so
your way
There you
nice
there.
that
go.
you had that's so nice that you had a Kyle mentoring you through your first extraction. I feel like the moment is so vulnerable. I had the opposite situation where I had someone mentoring me who was like, "Oh, you've got this," for my first molar root canal, and I was like, "I really don't have this. I really need help." And this poor
So
patient,
hard.
he ended up taking. It took me 4 appointments to finish his poor root canal.
Been there.
Hey, you know what?
It
That's
was
kind of
horrible.
normal. Not a bad thing. That's how you start. How are you gonna learn?
I
That's
was
so
like, I really
funny.
need. So, anyways, I'm really excited to have you on the show. Me personally, I think we're 35 guests into the show, and I think you're our third woman, which is funny because we do have so many women in dentistry. I'm pretty sure we're over 50% at this point, but there's not a lot of women who put their faces out there and can really serve as role models for other women. So, I'm just really excited to have you on as a woman in dentistry.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I really love what I do. I love supporting my other women. I think that's a huge thing. We take on a responsibility, that not only is it that we're supposed to be good at what we do, but we also have to be good at being moms, being a wife, just playing that female role as well. And having to balance it is not easy. I know I respect men in the profession because it is not an easy profession. And I always tell my male colleagues, like, I look up to you guys because there's so much pressure in the profession of not only having to do really well, succeed, be also balancing the fact that you have to provide for a family, that alone, and making sure that your business structure is supporting other employees and staff members. I mean, while doing the dentistry and taking care of patients, I mean, you're taking care of everyone else, but almost yourself at one point, you know? So, um, I think it's very, very important to have a balance. And as a female, I want to put it out there that it is very important to have a balance and to help support others because I don't know if Christian or Kyle, you've ever felt jealousy from a woman, but Ingrid, have you felt jealousy from a woman ever? Because it's kind
Felt
of
jealousy
intense.
from other women.
Yes.
Are
Like
you talking about
I
it's
think
inside the profession or
yes.
outside the profession?
I would say, I mean, inside or outside. It doesn't even matter. Like that jealousy of other women is not a good feeling, you know? And it's like when you see that, you kind of wanna eliminate that negativity, and you wanna say like, "Okay, well, why is it that people are jealous of each other?" And I don't know if men experience this as well. I think men have egos more in dentistry, and women have less of it. Do you guys agree?
I think we have
Christian's
I think we
face.
definitely have higher egos,
Yeah.
but I think
Per
maybe less jealousy. I don't know, Christian, would you agree?
correct. Yeah, what do
I
you guys
I
think?
think yeah, and that's in general in life. We usually see that among friends, group of male friends, you have the ego problem, and women friends sometimes you see a little bit more jealousy.
Yes.
In general, of course, we are generalizing something that is very subtle,
Nuanced.
right? Uh, but I think that, but we talked about this before, right? Why, if in dentistry today you have definitely more than 50, I think it's almost 60%
Yeah.
of the practicing clinicians are women, and nowadays in most countries, right? And when you go to academics, when you go to lecturing, when you go to publishing, when you go to research, when you go to speaking congresses, it's almost like 90% or even more men, 10% women. Now, we know there's obvious historical explanation to that, right? I
Of
think the
course.
world is getting more balanced, thank God, and we're giving the right space, thank God, to women to be leading together with men. But you see that many times. I feel like many times women they don't have the need to expose themselves like men.
Correct.
They're much more worried about what really matters. Men, they have that necessity to worry about things that are not that important, but it's important for their ego. So you
Correct.
naturally have this tendency to go to stage, be on stage more than women. I don't know if you women agree with that.
100%, I agree.
I feel like we've had this conversation before, and I've had this conversation about like the male versus male and then female versus female situation in other industries. Like my friends who are lawyers and work at different kinds of companies, and they say of course women experience women on women jealousy. We know that as women. I think as we get older it tends to get a little bit less, like when high school is
Yes.
obviously the worst. But then my guy friends are like, oh no, it's there. It's this male on male competition. So I do think no matter what, like even if it's kind of this like subconscious like layer of like, oh well, like
I
good-
think there's one thing, I don't know if Kyle will agree with me. There's one thing, men, when they're jealous about another man, they want to become friends with that man. Think about that, Kyle. We are attracted to them, man.
Kyle's thinking real
We want,
hard.
you want to conquer their respect as well. And women, they're the opposite. They're jealous. They want to
Yeah. They
kill
will
the other
talk
one.
they will
Yeah,
talk shit about you.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
would
yeah.
happen.
I
That's
actually think I'm in your camp, Christian. Like if I see someone who I think is amazing, I'm like, I need you to be my best friend.
okay, so
I
Ingrid,
want to
I'm just like
learn.
you. I'm like you. I think that there are probably different categories of people or maybe it is kind of where that person is at in their life because we've all gone through stages in our lives, but the reality is like I will sit there and I will want to be friends with someone better than me. I
Mhm.
want to
Yeah,
support someone better than me. I'm
yeah.
going to be someone's cheerleader who's better than me cuz I'm actually like so proud of them. You know, I would want someone to do that to me, but the reality is like I'm a supporter of people, and it comes across naturally. I don't want anything back from you, by the way. I see you and I'm like, I love what you're doing.
I love
And
having
that's what it is.
friends that support each other no matter who is more successful or less. I have one of my best friends is almost a billionaire, and I'm like his biggest cheerleader. What's crazy is like there's sometimes when he'll send me a text and just be like, "I'm so proud of you and what you're doing, and like I can't believe you get on stages and talk in front of people. That's like my worst nightmare. Like you're so amazing." And I'm like, coming from him, it means so much, like because he's been my friend for so long and I respect him so much, both in like a business and personal standpoint. But it's so cool to have, and I really have that here, especially in Orange County. I have this group of friends that's really successful and very supportive of each other, which I didn't have in LA. LA was like everybody was trying to get above and use you to get to the next person. And this group that I have in Orange County is like very supportive. I don't know. It's very different.
In LA, you're probably talking about more because you were surrounded by more dentists. So when you have somebody that is in a completely different field or in a completely different stage in life, up or down, it's much easier to admire each other. The problem usually happens when you have somebody very close
I think you're right.
that is something that is very similar to what you were going to get,
Hmm.
and maybe you didn't get that.
Yeah.
Or if you are the pupil and you are the mentor, and somehow the pupil is becoming slightly better on that moment, a lot of tension starts to happen. Now you have the mentor saying amazing things about many, many people above and below, but that pupil that became as good as the mentor during those 3 to 5 years, very hard to have the maturity to cheer them up.
I've seen that. I've seen that multiple times.
You know that sinking feeling when the same patient keeps coming back for crown after crown? Yeah, we've all been there. Here's the thing: what if we could actually prevent all that mess with a simple bite correction? That's where we come in at Two Front. We handle the whole Invisalign process for you. I'm talking zero ClinChecks, zero lab bills, barely any chair time. Oh, and we take on the liability too. Your patient gets a healthy bite that'll save them thousands down the road. You get to be the hero who prevented years of dental drama. It's honestly a no brainer. Check out Two Front and start helping your patients dodge a lifetime of dental work today.
What do you think? I believe that the LA high-end dental community is becoming more friendly and supportive. I don't know if you would agree with me or not.
Yes, I agree
I
100%.
think
I
10
feel
years
like
ago it wasn't. And maybe that's because
Mhm.
all of us were kind of new and kind of like
Yeah.
trying to see what we were all going to become. But I know at least in the last 5 to 7 years, I've become friends with all the people who I thought were our biggest competition. Um,
Yep. Yep.
and I think it's happening more too.
No, I agree. I think everyone is more willing to help one another. Dentistry is hard as it is. And why are we making it harder? And at the end of the day, we're talking about, competition and really when you sit and you're talking about others, like I support others who are more successful than me, right? And that's because all of you in this podcast, and I look up to each and every single one of you. You guys have done amazing things for dentistry, but the reality is that you guys have your own superpowers, and now you're sitting there and you're like, hey, I could support. I think once you harness your superpower, once you focus on, I am me and no one else is like me, like when that moment of my life, like that mindset shifted, it was as if I exploded into a new person. And it was I
Mhm.
didn't even one part of it is like, I don't care what other people think. I have to focus on what it is that I can do and I can do best. If I am sitting here and knowing that I myself, there's no one else like me, I can support every single other person because no one can be me.
Do you think you have to get to a certain level of success in order to have that feeling? Because I feel like I did. I had to get to a certain level of success, and then I said, like, well, now I don't give a shit what anybody thinks of me. But before, I
Yeah.
sure did give a shit.
No, you do. You do give a shit. You're always thinking like, "Oh my God, what if I do this? What if I say this? What if, oh, my case is not good
Yeah.
enough?" Like, and you're constantly thinking of what other people think about you. But the reality is that, you know, competition. I think guys have competition amongst each other. It's like a masculine thing.
Competition is an interesting one too, I think, Jennifer, for you and me, because
Mhm.
we practice our practices are in a building that has about 50 dentists in it. Okay. And when I
100%.
first got in there, I was the one that was very like, oh, they're coming to my practice, or they're going here, or they're going here. And then over the years, you kind of realize like, we've had patients that have left us and gone to your practice. You've had patients that have left yours and come to our practice, come from another practice and come
Exactly.
here. They didn't like the front
Exactly.
office, so they went there. They didn't like the fees, so they went here. And you realize like there is enough patients to go around. I mean, there's like 14 million people in LA. There's enough dentists. And that's what I think is a misconception on um, concentrated areas or competitive, let's say, big cities. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's so hard to have a practice." I think that's really a mindset thing. Is like
Correct. It's
you
all
have to
mindset. It's
have
all
that growth
mindset.
mindset to know that there's enough people to go around, and to know that not every patient is right for your practice.
Correct. I'm gonna make that quick point because we're in the same building, so I'm sure Kyle got this all the time, but it was every time I've not every single time, but I've had friends and colleagues and even patients are like, "Do you know how many dentists are in your building? The guy next door is a dentist to you. You have a lot of competition." I'm like, "Sweetie, no one is a competition with me. I am the only Jennifer Haddad in this building." And believe it or not, I walk into the building thinking I'm the only dentist here, but guess what? I have someone who's amazing, you and Matt upstairs, and I love you guys. I think you guys do such great dentistry. Actually, my husband is a fan of Matt, and he's like, "I think he's one of the best." And I agree. Like, these are things that you have to sit and you have to acknowledge people's superpowers and what they're good at. It's very, very important that you yourself can point people out and say, "Hey, you're very good at what you do, and I wanna be like you, and I wanna strive to be like you," you know?
How do you know you have this growth mindset? Because I can guarantee to you that if we interview 1,000 dentists and we ask this question, everybody's going to say, "Oh, of course, I have the growth mindset. Yeah, I didn't have that before. Oh, my ego was out of control before, but now I do have everything under control." And I have, and we see that many people say that they don't have an ego, but they have a huge ego, that they're not jealous, but they are jealous, that
Correct.
they are not struggling, but they are struggling, that they say they have a growth mindset, but they don't have a growth mindset, or at least they have room for improvement. So I always like to try to identify, how do you analyze yourself to understand if you do have that mindset or not. And you met, because you mentioned, you had a moment, both of you, Carl and Jennifer, you guys mentioned that in the past, you were not there, but there was a certain moment where you had that paradigm shift or that mindset shift, right? So
Right.
how did you identify that you didn't have before, and what happened? What did you do to yourself to achieve this growth mindset?
This is a very, very good question. I love it. The biggest, I would say, the biggest thing is, again, in dentistry, we're raised to be competing against one another. There's a competition.
Hmm.
And the reality is that when you realize that collaborating is stronger than competing, you start to wipe away that competition.
Yeah.
And then you realize that each person that's collaborating brings something to the picture.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, you want to know who my biggest competition is? Myself. I am my biggest competition. So that's my growth mindset. I am never good enough. I can always do better. How can I want feedback from others, not the positive. Thank you for the positive. I really appreciate it. But I want to also know, okay, this is how you can communicate better. This is how you could treatment plan this case better. This is how you could go through the procedure. You can learn something from everyone. I am not perfect. And when you know that you're not perfect and you want to help support one another, I think that's the biggest thing.
I can tell you as a technician that when you tell a dentist, doctor, your prep is shit, or doctor, your impression is bad, or doctor, 9 out of 10 of your last bite registrations were off. Most doctors don't get it very well. Don't.
No, there's an ego behind it, right? I think that's a huge thing. I know Sam from the Beverly Hills Dental Lab, he's had to deal with a lot of dentists who won't listen to any type of feedback. And sometimes I will tell him, hey, please always tell me how I can improve because I want to get better. That's my request. But I also like sometimes it's like, well, why don't you tell this person, you know, give a little bit of advice? Like, well, they won't listen.
Christian, I get that. I have that experience all the time. I work at a dental lab, and I talk to a lot of dentists, and I usually talk to the dentist when there's been, let's say, multiple remakes, right?
Mhm.
And it comes down to the point of where it's really not the lab in this case, right? It's the margin, availability, it's the bite, it's whatever, the reduction, whatever it is. And I'm surprised at how many dentists are actually really great at taking feedback, because I know, especially early in my career, I was not like that. I wanted to learn, but I wanted to learn and also know how good I was at the same time, which of course doesn't really work. And so it's really refreshing actually to talk to so many dentists that are like, yeah, doc, like tell me what I can do better in this, and I'll say, I think we need to take a new impression or we need to take a new scan. And they're like, okay, if that's what it takes, like, yeah, I'm happy to do that. Um, I don't know if it's coming because I'm a dentist talking to them.
100%. That helps.
That's one of the reasons why I think
That's
Paramount.
why more labs need to do what your lab did to you, hiring you. We need doctors hired by labs, talking to dentists. I think that's a great trend that is happening.
It's funny. It happens often to where the lab owner or one of the other technicians will talk to the dentist and they'll be like, no, like you guys figure it out. And then I'll call and they'll be like, oh yeah, I totally see what you're saying. Like I can see how the margin's hard to see in that area. It's really interesting. It's like,
Christian,
whether
you
you
just
talk to
brought up
mom or dad and ask if you can go out or something like that.
yeah. But Christian, you just brought up a very important point, and you're
Mhm.
talking about collaborating.
Mhm.
You're like, well, labs should
Real
collaborate with
collaborating, not
dentists.
pretending that you're collaborating, right?
Exactly. No pretending. It's a real collaboration, and I think again, two is stronger than one. We can help each other. Please name one person that is like, oh, I did it all on my own. I'm so
Oh,
successful on my own. I'm so good on my own. I don't know anyone, but if you
and
guys
I
can name
think
me one person, I,
And I
I'll
think
give
it's one of
you
the biggest misconceptions in dentistry that like we can do it on our own. And I'm pretty sure we're the only business that is 80% small business owners. And I think that's fundamental to like the opportunity that we have to actually get better and collaborate as a profession. That's why people are so overwhelmed, don't understand business, feel so much
Yes.
anxiety, feel so much loneliness. And one of my roommates at NYU in dental school put it really well. She's Korean and she came here from South Korea, and she said that she told me that South Koreans are very competitive with each other and it keeps them down. And she said the difference between the Japanese is they're very collaborative. And that's why they've elevated and built so much as a society. And she used it as an example to be like, we as dentists need to learn from the Japanese and collaborate so we can work better together. So I think it's such an important thing for us to be talking about because dental school doesn't teach us to collaborate. Dental school is like
This is
open
a
up your brick and
this
mortar
is a
shop.
historical characteristic of dentistry, right? If you compare with medicine, and again, I'm not saying that medicine is more perfect or solved all their problems. They have a bunch of problems to solve as well. But in med school, you come up in this context that probably you're going to work in a hospital, and it's all about connecting the dots, and you want to connect, you want to collaborate because you cannot understand the whole body by yourself with all the systems. Unfortunately, in dentistry, because the mouth is just a small piece, we believe maybe that we can solve all the problems by ourselves, and we learn how to do everything by ourselves, and we don't have this same mentality, even though since the 90s we've been talking about interdisciplinary modern dentistry. But we see that 30 years after, we are still struggling to even communicate with our orthodontist or with our lab. And things are not connected at all, at least not in a systematic way. It's very random that we see professional collaboration, right?
I think you nailed it by saying at least not in a systematic way, because I think at least 5 to 10 years into practicing, we all see that like it's better if we collaborate. Like we are going to be better if we're together, but how is the question? And I think that's the part that's missing is what is the how for how we collaborate everyone, right? Like as a profession to elevate. I still don't know the answer. What do you guys think?
I think that collaboration in dentistry is very casual, even though everybody wants to collaborate at this point in time. You don't have a dentist saying, no, I don't want to collaborate. And many dentists, they say, I am collaborating. But what I usually say is that it's a very amateur, casual type of collaboration. Again, going to medicine, once you go to hospitals, you have so many systems to follow. Otherwise, you're going to lose the information, in the middle of the process. So you have much more systems and checklists and processes that you need, and communication becomes a systematic process, right? Uh, a dental practice is a mini hospital, and we need to treat it as a mini hospital, and you need to use the same systems to collect data, process data, share data, access data, communicate on data, make decisions based on data. And I think that this is the biggest thing that we need to change this decade in dentistry.
I couldn't agree with you more, Christian. And I think the problem that we see is like there's HIPAA, and so people think like, oh, how do we communicate, because there is no infrastructure. So Jennifer, I'm curious about how it is at your practice, but I know that when I was practicing, it was just phone calls, and like every single day after work, being like, I'm going to call my oral surgeon, I'm going to call my
That's what I
periodontist.
call casual amateur collaboration.
It's
Exactly.
Christian
it's
was
it's a lot. I
Christian was the
agree.
one 10 years ago or more talking about really bringing asynchronous communication. And I really even learned that term, like asynchronous communication, from Christian many, many years ago. And it's funny how it's still not used.
Jennifer, how you're going through this process of making collaboration something more professional and systematic.
There's a lot of a shift of obviously to digital dentistry, and with
Really?
digital dentistry, there are so many effective ways of making things a little bit more streamlined, easier to communicate, whether it's to the patient, to the lab, to your team. So it's very important that as dentists, we are evolving with the technology. You have AI that's out now. You have obviously the scans, iTero scans. You have SmileCloud, which is a platform that not only a dentist could utilize, but then the lab could utilize, and then specialists can utilize. I mean, it's there are lots of platforms now that you could easily share and access information.
It is.
And I think that's key is evolving with the times, because there are a lot of things that we're kind of stuck in dentistry doing the same thing over and over again. Um, and I don't know if you have this mindset, but like going to dental school, becoming a dentist, the the moment of success for a dentist is when they own their own practice. And the reality is like you said, owning your own practice is so lonely. Like, is that really the definition of success at the end of the day for a dentist? Is that the highest point of a dentist, is when, hey, guess what? I just bought my own practice in this
It's
building, in
in,
this city, in this location. Like,
it's
but then
interesting.
I want to switch gears a little bit here and talk about how dentistry and life changed for you being a mother and balancing business, motherhood, your being pregnant while treating patients. I was having this discussion recently with some of my female colleagues, and there was some crazy stuff. I mean, one of the ladies said that her baby in the womb kicked her patient in the head while she was pregnant, which is so crazy. Another one said that she would be pumping while she was doing an extraction. I mean, the wild stuff that we men never have to even consider. I would love to hear
I'm glad you don't,
your
actually.
experience on that. I think it would help a lot of other female docs out there.
I think I always tell female docs, like, I tell the male docs, actually, I'm so glad you guys don't have to experience what we experience and kind of go through, but
We
because
couldn't
it's
handle
not
it. That's
fun.
why.
No, you can't handle, but it's okay. You guys already have a lot to handle, so focus on that. I always have to give you guys, that responsibility of being a man at the end of the day. We are females, and as a female, we have the responsibility of being a mother, of getting pregnant, of taking care of children. I mean, I think we have to go back to the basics at the end of the day, right? And when you go back to the basics, you remember what it is. You have to keep yourself in your role. I think that's huge, but also have a balance. Women want to be CEOs, they want to be powerhouses, and I'm all for it, by the way. I love women who can, you know, do what a man can do, but at the same time, stay in your lane. Like, let the man be the man and let him do what it is he does best and what you do best. But the reality is that becoming a mother, that was a very hard transition. And I had at one point in my mind, you know what, I'm pregnant, I'm going to have my first child. I think I'm going to step away from dentistry after the fact. I got my education. I'm working. I've shown everyone that I could do it, you know. So I ended up having my first child, and the scariest moment for me was thinking, okay, I'm going to go back into work, and really the reality of life is you have to try before you decide, as my opinion. Put yourself in a position where you can at least say, I've tried this and then I didn't like it or I liked it. I like this person, I don't like this person. I like this part of dentistry or I don't like it. But after I had my first child, my husband was like, go in, see if you like it. You have a passion for what you do, and you don't want to just throw all that hard work away. So I remember when I started, I was like, no, I'm not going to like this. I want to go back. I want to be a mom. Like, this is what I was made for. This is what I grew up, thinking. And lo and behold, I realized how much I loved both. But it was a balance of both. So I wasn't overdoing it, of just focusing all of my time and energy with dentistry. And then I wasn't, obviously, you're always thinking about your family, your kids, but
Sure.
there was a time where I had to let go and say, okay, well, now they are in the hands of this person. When I'm at work, I focus, I'm at work. When I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids 100%. I don't want to think or talk dentistry.
So
So that's where
kids, you have two?
I have two kids.
They went through the process twice.
I went through the process twice. The second time, I'll never forget, I was like so anxious to go back to work, which was really weird for me. But at the same time, again, it's like tug of war constantly, as a mom and as a dentist, because you're wanting to be there with your kids at all times. I'm like, let me try to spend as much time as I can with them. But then there's the part where it's like, because I love what I do. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, well, I want to go back and I want to take care of my patients and be there for my team and continue just growing in dentistry, but always having a balance. That's really the key at the end of the day.
Mhm.
I don't work full time, and when I do, I literally tire myself out, and then guess what, now I'm lacking with my family life. But when you balance both and you can sit there and really, really focus on whatever it is that you're doing. Being a mother, I think, has made me more efficient in my time. I'm I'm definitely on a schedule at all times, but before having kids, I was sitting and thinking like, wow, I had so much time on my hands. What was I doing? And
What
we
the
could
hell
die.
was I doing the whole day?
I was gonna ask you, do you feel like having the kids slowed down your career? Sometimes do you imagine where you could be if you didn't have the kids? In terms of purely egocentrically, professionally speaking.
You know what's really funny? That is a very, very, very great thought to have, and my kids have never slowed me down. It's really crazy. because I give a lot of love to both aspects of my life.
Mhm.
But for example, I'll give you an example. I have always told myself, like, I've always wanted to lecture. I've always wanted to be on stage, but I've said, well, one, let me focus on my kids right now.
Mhm.
I'm going to take care of them. I'm not going to make that a priority. I've never told anyone this. This is the first time I'm saying this to you guys.
Mhm.
Um, let me make them a priority. I will go on stage once they've grown up, once I've secured them, just like my parents did for me. Lo and behold, this year, out of nowhere, I get approached and I get asked to lecture. And I was really astounded because I've never told anyone that I want. I do watch people. I admire them when they're on stage. I'm like, that's going to be me one day. And when I got asked, I was really shocked because I felt like I'm not ready yet at this moment. What do you mean you want me to lecture? Like, how am I going to do it? Like, I have 2 kids, I have a family, I'm working. Like, but then I took that as an opportunity and I said, you know what? The opportunity's here. I could do it. I could balance both. And I said, if I like this, I will continue to do it and I will know how to balance my
Mhm.
kids as well as my career.
Mhm.
So the kids do not stop you. I think
Mhm.
if you just love what you do and you're really focusing on yourself. People always tell me like your energy, wow, like we could tell that you love what you do. I'm like, really? Because I'm not trying to show you guys that I love what I do. I just really love our profession and I love interacting with people. But again, I think it's because I have a balance. I don't have burnout. I treat people in the building, I treat other doctors and they go, "You are so like you love what you do. I have to continue like I need to finish my dental work before you burn out." I'm like, "No, no, no. I don't ever want to get to the stage of burnout because I've worked before. I've worked 5, 6 days a week before I had kids, before I got married. I was working on Saturdays every single day. I know what burnout is."
That's what my father says. My father works 6 days a week as a dentist for more than 50 years. And he says,
How?
I don't give energy to dentistry. Dentistry gives me energy.
That's how I
That's what
feel
he said.
too.
Yeah.
There you go. That's beautiful.
I love what you're saying about presence. And I also think this is such an important thing to talk about for our female listeners because, I think when we all decided to become dentists, no one was thinking about balancing their careers with being a mom. I know I definitely wasn't. And something that now that, almost all my friends have kids, we talk about is if you're a teacher, at least in the UK where I am right now, you get a year off. If you're a partner at a
Mhm.
lawyer at a law firm, you get 6 months off paid. If you work, at all these big companies like these consulting companies, you get 6 to 12 months off. And as dentists, if you own your own practice, what?
They're
What
taking
are you
2 weeks
going to
off. I
do?
have some of my female colleagues who own practices, and they took 2 weeks off. I'm like, "You're still healing. What are you doing? How?" Like, this is
Literally.
insane to me. The pressure that is being put and the thing is I've had some of my female colleagues call me. They own practices. They're like, "Hey, I'm pregnant with my second. I really was miserable with my first child. I went back after 2 weeks. I wasn't ready. I was depressed." These are real things that people don't talk about, and I'm so grateful that I could be someone that they could call and say, "Hey, how did you feel? What did you go through? What do you think?" Because we need to be there for one another. I think there's a lot of pressure being put because, again, you don't want to leave your practice, which is like a baby, which is like a member of your family, where you have to provide for other staff members. You need to make sure that it's constantly going. And if you're the female sole provider of a practice, guess what? It's all on you. How do you financially make money when you're not there? You can only do so much hygiene, right?
Mhm.
And so again, that's where we talk about is success determined by, hey, guess what, guys? I own my own practice. I now made it to the top because they're drowning. I mean, it's just, and thankfully, Kyle is talking about the mental well being of a dentist because, I think you basically have the balls to talk about it. For the longest time, people are going through a lot and realizing that now we need one another more than anything. And that's where I think everyone who is really up there. in dentistry in Beverly Hills are being more supportive of one another, because it is not easy. And you can't do this on your own at the end. But it's all a balance. It's a balancing act.
100%. And I actually bring back the same problem that we're talking about right now of like, how do female doctors that own their own businesses support that practice while having a family? Because obviously that's not an easy thing to do. I think the root of the problem is the same thing that we were just talking about, Christian, with not having systems for asynchronous communication, for collaboration. Similarly, we need a better system, in my opinion. And I don't know what that is. Like, I don't, we're starting.
But if you're a woman and you own a practice and you have a women associate and she gives birth and she's on a salary and you're paying the salary, how much time would you give to that person to stay at home with the kid and you continue to pay the salary?
It depends, right? Like it depends. In an ideal world, like you are just creating the most, and if it were me in an ideal world, I'm creating the most supportive environment ever, but everything runs on capitalism. So
The system needs to
what
be reinvented from inception, you know?
100%.
exactly.
It's all about
What
numbers
is
at the end.
what is
It
our
doesn't
top
make
line?
sense. It doesn't make sense a society that has such a vital profession and nobody thinks about how can you create a basic system where we can all support each other minimum amount to allow women to stay with their kids at least for the first year. It's pretty basic. We are pretty smart. We humans, we are pretty smart. I think that if we could sit down and draw a system, these big companies, don't you think that Amazon could find a solution to give 1 year to every woman and keep them getting what they need, and come back after 1 year and continue their job, knowing that women become such an, having a baby makes you so much better in many different ways that you become a better employee or a better professional because of that, right? So
Because you have to
we just
balance
need
a
to
lot
talk
more.
about it and find a solution. It's insane that in the richest country in the world, a female doctor is coming back to see patients after 2 weeks.
The really important point here is that at the end of the day, let's not even talk about females and their maternity leave. Let's talk about vacation time. Why is it so difficult to implement vacation time, even for our male colleagues? Think about that. Do we have vacation time? Not unless you will make it a point to put it in your schedule. God forbid an employee or an associate or a doctor does not work for X amount of days. I mean, is that a true balance of life as well as a business model at the end of the day? It's really
We wonder why we
upsetting.
have so much burnout in dentistry.
Correct. And mental breakdowns as
When
well.
we treat vacation time as a gift to ourselves instead of a right or instead of a requirement is when so many people have problems. And I was guilty of this. I never took time off. I mean, the only vacations I ever took was when I brought my wife with me to a lecture, right? Because I was getting,
Is that really a
because
vacation?
my plane was getting paid for and I had
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
free nights of hotel. So then it's took, we have a few
You're
hours together
maximizing,
when I'm
but
not lecturing.
yeah.
Yeah, I was totally guilty of that.
No, I agree.
Christian, we had a podcast with with Jeremy Krell, who is a dentist turned dental fund owner a couple of months ago. And Christian, you asked a very poignant question of if you think that we're solving the right problems as in the dental industry. And I think the problem that I see, at least, is that we have a lot of extremely smart people coming into our industry because they're like, oh my God, cottage industry, 80% small business owners. Great, let's go disrupt. But are they solving the real problems? And to me, this is a real problems. The real problems is infrastructure to support dentists so that we can provide better dentistry for our patients. But we can't change the dental industry if we are not supported as dentists.
We can change. Look, that's just came to my mind now. For me, it becomes very simple to understand the problem. Divide all the professionals in two groups. The ones that have enough money, enough diversified income that they can take 1 year off, or their wife can take their 1 year off, or they are women, they can take 1 year off, and they can survive in super high standards because they have the savings, they have the money, right? So you have one group of people that have enough to stop for a year whenever they need and then continue. And then the other group is the people that don't have enough to stop for a year if they need to, right? Of course, that the group of people that cannot stop is probably, I don't know, in US, I don't know, 80% of the people, maybe even more. I'm guessing, whatever, right? The problem is that we humans, and I include myself, we are selfish in nature. So we start for many years not having enough to stop for a year. And for some reason, a few people do the right things, are successful or are lucky or they study or they're smart, whatever they do, and they get the money. As soon as the people that struggled, that couldn't stop for a year, become the people that they can't stop, they stop thinking about the people that cannot stop. And the people that can't stop are in power or are running the companies or are making the laws or are setting the policies. They don't care anymore because they can stop. They have this permission to stop whenever they want. And that's the circle, of capitalism that creates the situation where we see these obvious stupid issues and nobody does anything about it. So for
Mhm.
me, women not being able to stop for a year when they have a baby, women having to choose between their career or having a baby, women having to choose bad partners because they are scared of not having the ability to stop for a year. And we see these recurring problems, and we cannot find a solution to allow women to continue to give birth and do the best, stay at home for a year and then come back and kill it in their
Mhm.
job as well, right?
That's
It's
huge.
like, how can we be so stupid not to find a solution for that?
There has to be a solution. I will say I was at a course teaching with Pascal one weekend, and one of my female colleagues comes to me and says, Jennifer, I need you. Come to the bathroom with me. Guess what's happening? I'll never forget it. She's having a miscarriage, okay? She's a practice
Oh
owner.
my gosh.
She's taking time out of her schedule to be here learning. She's paid for the course. She's taken the time. Now she's having a miscarriage. I rush her to the hospital. I'll never forget this. And she goes through having a miscarriage and then has to go to work the following week. Like nothing happened. And
Wow.
I literally had a heart to heart with her and I said, "You're amazing. Like this is something that a man cannot understand." And we go through this and our bodies go through literally a mental breakdown. That's a mental breakdown. You're in the hospital, you're hospitalized over the weekend. It, all for what? Is that happiness?
And imagine if you're a single mom, and imagine if you have to pay the bills by yourself, right? There's something
It's a
wrong
lot.
there.
One of my
It's a lot.
favorite phrases is today first day of the rest of our lives. It's like I live by this phrase. And I think the thing that's so beautiful about this is that we're even having this conversation right now. Because who's having this conversation? And I think the wonderful thing about podcasts is we can say whatever we want, we can brainstorm on whatever we want, and our listeners can help us and build this community to figure out how do we solve these problems. And so we know this is a problem, right? So we need to figure out what is that infrastructure? What is that? We know it's around collaboration, right? Jennifer, you said this from the beginning. We
100%.
need to
Yeah.
collaborate. We need to stop being jealous of our colleagues. We need to figure out how to collaborate. And honestly, I believe in capitalism. I think that capitalism fuels the best innovations in life, like Amazon and Uber and Lime and all these incredible things. We need to figure out a business model, in my opinion, that really supports if we want to be, small business owners instead of working for a group organization. What is that infrastructure that supports us?
But if the government cannot do it for us, we need to get together and do it for ourselves. So if let's
Exactly.
say you get a group of 500, 1,000 dental practices together and you say, this is the rule.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to work.
Systems.
We're going to take a little piece from everybody to allow this to happen when needed. And you solve the problem.
Mhm.
You just solve the problem. Now, some people will say, Christian, you're a socialist. I'm not a socialist. I'm an ambitious capitalist. But I think that certain things, you need to do for the best of the majority of the people, right? Uh, and you need to think a little bit social sometimes, to
Yes.
get that minimum balance for people to be happier.
Social, not selfish, right?
Yeah.
You guys, each of you, if I were to, Ingrid, two front, you're trying to help, right? You're collaborating with dentists to help them with two front. Kyle, you have brought a huge point of discussing mental health. And that is a big, it's not dentistry, right? But it's dentistry. And that's huge. Christian, you talk about emotional dentistry. Like, that is the key of trying to make someone successful in what it is that they're doing, right? How do you sell
Hmm.
to patients without
Hmm.
selling?
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
based on emotion. And with all of these systems, all of these, each of you are bringing that in, collaborating. And don't tell me that this podcast wouldn't be as successful if one of you guys were missing. You guys are like a trifecta. Like,
Mhm.
this is this is a successful podcast because it's with each and every one of you, right? So, yeah. Sorry if there's
No, no,
a
no.
but
No,
but that's the reality,
Jennifer,
collaboration.
it's a great point, and I just want to share this for our listeners. Like, I'm such a believer in the way that our industry gets better. Christian, I'm with you. There's something about we have to. I think I would tweak a little bit of my opinion of what you said of how we build this, which is like I do think there's a capital foundation. I do think there's a capitalistic foundation to support us. And what I've learned about business is that the deeper the problem, the bigger the opportunity. And so I think that we really need clinicians. We need clinicians to be able to figure out how to build businesses for other clinicians, because that's what I've learned over the past 7 years since I started Two Front is like you have to feel this pain so deeply to be able to keep going. And so I think that this is why I'm so passionate about dentists learning business, learning how to raise venture capital so they can get the funding to build businesses to solve pain points for other dentists. So for our listeners, if you ever want to learn business, I did it in 7 years and I
Yes.
can help.
We need to be less philosophical and more practical on the topic that women need to have babies. Otherwise, humans don't exist. Period. Okay? So, and women are the best dentists. Period. And we need more women being dentists. Period. And women can only have babies before 40s, usually,
Yes.
right?
That's a whole
So
nother topic. You want to talk about that
it's
one? I'll go into that one.
unfair. I'm saying it's unfair. You start getting into your 30s, things start to happen, and the society doesn't give a damn. If you're a woman and if you're closer to 40, if you want to have a baby and you need to pay your bills, nobody cares. People, we don't talk enough about this, right?
Mm-mm.
How do you practically find a solution to allow women to get into their 30s and don't feel the pressure that they need to choose, right? That they can
Well,
have both, that society is supporting this vital act.
it doesn't exist right now. It just
No?
doesn't
No.
exist. Like if I was a practicing dentist right now, I wouldn't start a practice. I would work for a group, and I would work for a group that gave me time off. And I would say, how much time off are you going to give me when I get pregnant? And what about my second kid? And what about my third kid? And that's how I would choose my job, because I don't think it makes sense without this like incredible infrastructure that we're talking about to support women and support time off for men and women. I think that there's no other, my opinion is like, I don't see a world where you can own a practice and also enjoy motherhood.
The biggest thing here is that I've come across a lot of my female colleagues, even just through, teaching with Pascal at the courses. And a lot of times a huge point of conversation is, hey, are you married? Do you have kids? How many kids? And I have gotten more than 50% that say, hey, you know what? I decided to open up a practice, and that took up a lot of my energy and time. And so by the time I was ready to have kids, guess what? I was 40, so I never had kids. And that's a huge, huge problem that I continuously come across. And at the end of the day, you have the ability to choose. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. However, there are times where women are really struggling and saying like, I wish I was able to have a baby, but I didn't. I had to choose between one or the other. And
Or I did, because most of the women are courageous to actually go and say, you know what? There's no solution. There's no system for me. My boss doesn't give a damn. The company doesn't have the structure. Society doesn't have the structure, but I'm going to have my baby anyway. And I'm going to figure out down the road what is going to happen. And that's what actually happens for most women. They just go through the process and survive. And then, depression and stress and destroying themselves and doing 10 things at simultaneously. And unfortunately, I have to be honest here. I don't think man can solve this problem for women. I don't think
I
men
totally agree with you.
are
I'm with you,
courageous enough,
Christian.
are brave enough, are generous enough to solve this problem for women. You guys need to take power, and you will take power, and you need to take power, and you need to say, you know what? We're going to make it happen because it's unfair.
I think we may have to have Jennifer back on to go deeper into this topic.
we can continue talking about this for another hour because
Yes.
this goes back to the American dream,
That's right.
right?
Yeah, which we definitely need to hit on the next episode. But Jennifer, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. That's the biggest platform, I would say. You can find me in West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, but really, Dr. Jennifer Haddad on Instagram is where I love to, share my day to day, just being me. It's one of my favorite platforms that I've learned to love. Actually, it's like my little journal. But if you guys have any questions, I am here for you guys. I am all about supporting all of my female dentists out there. I've been through what you've been through. Um, and I will continue to just be your cheerleader at the end of the day.